Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. I'm so excited to talk to you. I was literally waiting. When can we finally talk and discuss? And yes, we're going to talk about the presser. Honestly, to begin with, what I just recently shared, I'm very happy that you got to experience President Biden just the way he is, which is wise, knowledgeable, and quite boring if you're looking for a reality show. This is certainly not a reality show guy. He's not going to entertain you with all of this. But I have a bit of a fight to pick with you. And I might curse today. So if that requires any kind of like headphones, I warned you, do your business now. And so let's cover everything. And by the way, tomorrow I will dissect the press conference, especially the last part, because we learned so much there. So much was shared, sometimes a bit overshared, but I want to pay attention to every single sentence and information we got, especially about China, about Russia, about also the policies and plans that Biden administration has set forth. So let's dissect it tomorrow, but today I'm going to share a couple of clips just to talk about it. So as everybody is gathering, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. So let's begin with the obvious, because otherwise I will be confronted with, oh my God, you did not show the biggest embarrassment, and oh my God. So yes, Biden did call Zelensky Putin. Watch.
Now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Now, this is Biden with Obama.
This election year, the choice is clear. One man stands ready to deliver change we desperately need. A man I'm proud to call my friend. A man who will be the next president of the United States, Barack America.
Barack America was pretty good, wasn't he? As much as Biden was good as the VP. But I want to share with you just my opinion. And please, and indulge me in speaking 2-3 minutes about my personal opinion and sharing my story. And I do have a point, I promise. And then we get into the news. We're going to watch all the videos and everything. We discuss the Project 2025 and the international support in NATO, Ukraine. We discuss everything. So it's going to be packed. But please allow me to speak for 2 minutes. I, as a Ukrainian-born American citizen, would love to share with you how we Europeans, and I bet also other foreigners from other parts of the world, think of you, Americans. We think of you as the land of opportunity, as the land with big D energy, where anything and everything is possible. See, I was born in Ukraine, post-Soviet Union, where the mentality still is very limiting, where we fear the government, we fear the employer fears employees, and everybody looks behind the shoulder and is very scared to be happy. We're scared to be happy. We even have a saying, don't show that you're overly happy because you're going to provoke something and negative things will happen. Almost cursed here. And then in Western Europe, because I grew up also in Germany and lived in the Netherlands, being modest is of very high importance. Don't have the biggest car, don't have the biggest dreams. Do you for a fact know that in some countries in Western Europe, if you do decide to have a side hustle or a second job, you will be taxed 75% because people are not supposed to have 2 jobs. They're not supposed to overwork. Yeah, you have free healthcare and then you handed everything and you're supposed to be just, chilly and live the lifestyle. So if you do have dreams and ambitions, which I had, I looked crazy on the yard. And I was talked not so nicely too, because I had dreams and I had ambitions. And then we come to the United States and we're like, oh my God, this is amazing. You want to overwork yourself? Overwork. You don't want to do it? Don't do it. You love who you love. You wear what you wear. You guys buy food in gallons, for sake. You have choices, and you have choices when it comes to votes. You have choices even when you vote for a president. There's a vice president that can take over if whatever, God forbid, happens. You know who doesn't have it? China, North Korea, Iran, all those fantastic dictators that the other side is praising. So why are you Democrats are having this tiny little D energy? Why are you so anxious? Why did you allow a crazy person grab you by a certain part few years back, and now you're anxious and you're so afraid, and you're like, oh my God, they're tweeting, and he said that and she said that, and I hope we survive this press conference, when you have a guy who delivered for years. He got us out of shitty economy. He delivered on jobs. He forgave your loans. He is very much respected on the world stage. Heck, you can wheel him into the NATO conference and everybody's going to go, yes, sir. It's the strongest economy, strongest army, and you don't see how strong you are. You're like that beautiful woman who doesn't know her worth. And if you have ever been one, and if you ever had a daughter or a wife or a sister or a mother who didn't know her worth, you know what happens then? You're used, abused, and ignored until you decide what your worth is, and you change your behavior, and you change this first. And then the world adjusts. You know who has the big D energy? The other side, for no reason whatsoever. These people are walking like dodo birds into this limiting situation where their entire life will change. There will be limited rights, limited finances, everything is limited. But they're waving the flag, and they're proud of their candidate who's a felon, who's a liar, who is just insane when you listen to this. And we have a guy who has a stutter, but he speaks. Oh my God, did you listen to the conference? Wasn't it nice to have somebody boring where you had to listen twice? Like, did I hear it? Maybe I should Google it. Oh my God. Wasn't that nice and relieving? So why don't you grab yourself by a pair and realize how strong you are? Because the world is watching. You need to deliver, because everybody respects you way more than you respect yourself. And until you realize that, we have limiting time until then, 117 days, whatever. Until you realize that, that will be the issue. This mental anxiety, that is the issue. Not Biden, not Trump, not anybody else. That limiting belief is that issue. So if you want to meditate or run or do exercises or change your regimen, do it, because you have choice to make. And this choice is so freaking obvious. So obvious. So let's stop tweeting and let's just allow ourselves to laugh when there is an obvious fuck up. Somebody says a wrong name. Yeah, there was Vice President Trump or whatever. Somebody says it's a gaffe. Somebody misspeaks. Laugh. It's funny. Allow yourself to laugh. Stop being anxious. Whew. And now to the actual news. All right, let me see a comment. Probably, yes, preach. Thank you so much. Just couldn't help myself because I'm looking at you with such admiration. I live here for a very long time, and I'm like, this is where people were born, and this freedom, and this is normal for them, and they don't appreciate it. So sorry, had to say it. And by the way, don't even apologize for anybody's gaffe or mishap or whatever, because sorry is not an American word. It's very popular. Leave it for the neighbors up north. So let's go through the news. The day was packed with the news. And the first thing that I want to talk about, which is really connects as to why media was asking such questions, and then we get into a few questions from the debate that I want to share. But I want to explain to you what the mindset behind this and what the reason behind it, so you will watch that with this in mind, okay, and the questions of the debate as well. So first and foremost, today was announced, and I think I broke the news, but I announced it at 5 a.m., U.S. Department of Treasury and IRS announced that $1 billion in past due taxes collected from millionaires, right? So President Biden's Inflation Reduction Act is increasing tax fairness and ensuring that all wealthy taxpayers pay the taxes they owe, just like working families do. That said, U.S. Secretary of Treasury Janet Yellen. She said a new initiative to collect overdue tax from a small group of wealthy taxpayers is already a major success, yielding more than $1 billion in revenue so far. I want you to pay attention to small group of wealthy taxpayers. Now, and I know people were discussing Clooney and Schmooney and Douglas and all of this. Hollywood, and I have a point, I'm connecting the dots. Hollywood is not the elite and not that Hollywood that we used to. Hollywood now works for Amazon, Netflix, Apple, Disney. Hollywood works for this small group of people because they're hoping to get that role and hoping to get that job. Because if you pay attention, the movie industry has shifted. It's streaming, right? And the movie theater is only used to pre-screen before the streaming. So they're hoping to get the job. Now, if we think about, let's say, take Bezos, for example, Prime, Amazon Prime, right? Clooney has a movie coming out. It's very important for him to serve. Yes, sir. Now, what does Bezos also own? Right? And so now we think about Washington Post, New York Times. It's very much connected. It's the same tiny group of people that has been taxed and that will be so next year and the year after. Now, this was for past due charges. This was not even current. So pay attention to that. Now, when we read this, the media's anti-Biden noise is an accident. CNN CEO donated to Trump, ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. Does this make sense now? Are we connecting the dots? Now, think about if you're a media person. By the way, I probably will need protective gear when I go to the White House next time. But if you are an anchor, you are used to a certain lifestyle. Probably you might be a millionaire too. A bunch of them are. Bunch of them upgraded during the Trump administration because they went from being regular reporters to anchors and working in the studios. This adds a couple of zeros to your salary. So you don't want to lose that. Yeah. Then the actors don't want to lose that either. And then we see this press conference by the CNN CEO, right? David Zaslav, the CEO of CNN parent company, at the Allen & Co. media conference in Sun Valley, Idaho on Tuesday said, asked about the upcoming presidential election, Zaslav said it mattered less to him which party wins as long as the next president was friendly to business. We just need an opportunity for deregulation so companies can consolidate and do what we need to do to be even better. Now think about Biden, what I said that he's boring. He is boring. He is bad for business. And he's taxing your business. Yes? So that explains it. Now also there's another report. And I want to share, where do I have it? Do I have it here? Do I have it? Where do I have it? No, wait a second. Yes. So Heritage Foundation is working on election legal challenges in case Biden pulled from DNC nomination. So what does it mean? It means that they're filing lawsuits at least 3 swing states. I called them out literally yesterday on the live stream. Georgia, Nevada, and Wisconsin could restrict Biden's removal from the ballot because per rules at this point in time, if you switch your candidate, they wouldn't be on the ballot or would not be collecting the votes. So pushing Biden to withdraw is the key strategy as well. And the media frenzy makes then even more so sense. Yeah. Then also this, Trump's Secretary of Retribution. Can you imagine we're going to have a Secretary of Retribution? That's not the retribution you're thinking about. That's a different one. Personal retribution. Ivan Reiklin has a target list of 350 people he wants arrested. You know who has target lists? Russia, every dictatorship. Now, if you read this article, it mentions media personalities. There's a list of media personalities to be targeted if Trump wins. So now connect the dots. The boss is telling you got to do this, and now you're afraid. So you are pushing against Biden. And now the question is, why don't you push against Trump? And now you might end up on some list, which you don't want to end up on. So now you're not pushing against Trump. And this is not an it is an explanation. It's not an excuse. Because what could have happened if media had a bit of dignity, ethics, and would say, no, this is not what I'm going to do. And if everybody decided so, then the bosses could do and whatever, right? Because next thing, they start firing people. And then you worked for your evil whoever told you to do so, and now you fired and you're not going to be hired because you're a persona non grata. So all that has consequences. But when speaking about Clooney, and he said, do you remember he said yesterday that Biden is not the same as he was in 2020 and not in 2010? Guess who wasn't the same now either? George, honey, do you think you are that guy on the left that we're so, ain't nobody getting hot for you, No. So, especially if you're an actor and you're in such a visual business where age matters and your looks matter, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So, these are just my two, cents as to the Hollywood and the reason behind the media. But also, when we're looking at mishaps, and we say, okay, Biden is not as skilled to have press conferences or to speak off the cuff, right? Which is an advantage for Trump, for instance. He's quick to reply and he's sarcastic. Let's put it this way, okay? Just hold on, I have a point. Now, I worked in diplomacy at UN, right? Diplomatic situations require you to shut the hell up, listen to your advisors, and think 500 times before you even nod or have a facial expression. You're taught not to have facial expressions because you're taught, you're representing your country. If they say, how are you? And you're like, oh my God, yes. Well, then your country just said yes, enthusiastically. And it will be, seen as a sign. So you're not supposed to have facial expressions. You're not supposed to be acting fast, being slow, being wise, being boring and knowledgeable prevails. If you're fast, especially now in this day and age where we're dealing with dictators who speak totally different languages and come from different cultural backgrounds. We think about Asia, North Korea, Iran. We here, Westerners, we act different to begin with. You have to learn how to behave when you even travel there. Now imagine if you're being sarcastic and fast and funny. You think you're funny. And now we're talking about nukes and now we're talking about wars. No, it's not funny. So that makes your decision and your thought process actually a bit more clear, I hope. Yeah. I'm glad to be a member of this support network. Thank you so much. I tried to cover everything. So if I saw, I did cover Trump's debate. I just can't lie or tell you one thing is not that. But my point is that we have to see a clear picture. And if we will see Biden administration effing up, I will tell you that they're effing up. But at this point, they're not. I was a little bit disappointed that we had a very prolonged apology tour, which I thought did not have much substance to become such a long tour of apologizing and talking about the bad night. This was my criticism because there's no reason for it. Now, you will hear from the global leaders today as well. Okay? So let's talk about some things I have to read out. I just want to present some news to you. I covered this, Clooney, Biden, dogs. Okay, so one video I want to share because it was asked in the debate whether Biden did get a cognitive test and when was his checkup. And it was last time on Friday. It was last time. See, do I have Alzheimer's and Parkinson's? No. Just overworked. It was shared in February, right? And so, but I want us to remind ourselves on the video where Trump's doctor was admitting that he wasn't even doing the evaluation for Trump. So take a look. Maybe you'll remember.
Doctor, can you tell us, did the president dictate that letter to you? Tonight, President Trump's former New York doctor refusing to answer questions after claiming this letter he put out during the campaign, calling Trump's health astonishingly excellent, declaring Trump would be the healthiest individual ever elected to the presidency, came straight from Trump himself.
He wrote it himself, and me, from where I come from, the end of it was just black humor. It wasn't meant to be a serious comment.
When Dr. Harold Bornstein released the letter, some were quick to note the doctor seemed to echo Trump himself. And it's not the only time one of President Trump's doctors has sounded like his patient. When Trump released Dr. Bornstein's letter, the then candidate wrote, "I am fortunate to have been blessed with great genes." Dr. Ron.
Okay. The healthiest man alive, 3% fat. I mean, all for it. Write your own, assessments. But you're the leader of what, free world and the country, and now we're discussing in the debate today as well. When is the assessment? When is the cognitive test coming? So let's take a look on some questions. One question is, unfortunately, which was repeated for the first half of the debate. The second question is about Russia and Putin, which I want us to listen to, so we're all set for the other news that are coming up. So please watch.
Are you reconsidering your position on that? And then secondly, following up on Felicia's question there, leaders of your own party have said that they're not worried about that debate. They're worried about the next bad night and the bad night after that. How can you reassure the American people that you are up to the task and that there won't be more bad nights at a debate stage or somewhere else?
First thing about Zelensky asking for the ability to strike deep into Russia. We've allowed Zelensky to use American weapons in the near term and the near abroad into Russia. Whether or not he should be attacked. For example, should Zelensky, he's not, but if he had the capacity to strike Moscow, strike the Kremlin, would that make sense? It wouldn't. The question is, what's the best use of the weaponry he has, and the weaponry we're getting to him? I've gotten a more long-range capacity, as well as defensive capacity. And so our military is where I'm following the advice of my commander-in-chief, the chief of staff of the military, as well as the Secretary of Defense and our intelligence people. And we're making a day-to-day basis on what they should and shouldn't go, how far they should go in. That's a logical thing to do. Second question related to
Bad nights, sir. How can you reassure the American people that you won't have more bad nights, whether they be on a debate stage or in some matter of foreign policy?
Well, I tell you what, the best way to assure them is the way I assure myself. And that is, am I getting the job done? Am I getting the...
I hope that as a man, nobody involved ever has a bad night. And if you do happen to have one, I hope you're not facing a questionnaire and the same question for 30 minutes with a mic in your hands explaining how you promise not to have a bad night anymore. Yikes. Next thing about Putin, which really was straight to the point. But again, we're going to dissect the debate tomorrow, the presser tomorrow. So here's another video, last one.
But I think that Russia had 17.3% of Ukraine that they've conquered. Now it's 17.4%. I mean, in terms of percentage of territory. They've not been very successful. They've caused horrible damage and loss of life, but they've also lost over 350,000 troops, military, killed or wounded. They've over 1 million people, particularly young people with technical capability, leaving Russia because they see no future there. They've got a problem. But what they do have control of is they are very good at controlling and running the public outcry that relates to how they use mechanisms to communicate with people. They lie like hell through the constituencies. They lie like hell about what's going on. And And so the idea that we're going to be able to fundamentally change Russia in the near term is not likely. But one thing for certain, if we allow Russia to succeed in Ukraine, they're not stopping in Ukraine. I recommend, I know you know this because you've written about it, read Putin's speech after.
Which just shows you that he's reading all the articles and he's watching all the press briefings when he has time, because they're all live streamed. So, but this is not somebody who's reading off the notes. This is not somebody who's reading off the teleprompter. He knows way more than what he shares. He has to be very careful, because I also report and cover NSC, which, security issues are very fragile, especially when the whole world is watching you, and the whole world is watching literally in Washington as the leaders are ending the NATO summit. So, he answered it in the perfect way. And honestly, this is not, something that like I'm fanning of Biden. No, but it was very wise and it was very carefully phrased. And the point that Russia is lying about the results and about everything to their own people is exactly that needed moment that where people who think that calling Putin genius and calling his moves wonderful and exciting is really that contrast that you have to pay attention to. But as we spoke about the media and we learned about the media frenzy, I do expect more things that, oh my God, he had a list of reporters. Of course he had a list of reporters. That he was reading, he was not reading. You were asking the same question, which you were reading. So there were one or two questions. So why is media reading and then he is not supposed to be reading, but he wasn't. So that's just, two things to comment. You're probably the smartest media person I've watched. Thank you for your rant earlier. Oh my God, thank you so much. I'll cut it out. We can share it. Olga, this isn't just one bad night. People were worried about his performance prior to the debate, and he has exasperated those concerns. Well, this is your opinion. Hi, Olga, just popping to listen for a bit. Thank you so much. I know it's late. And I understand your concern, right? And if you think that this was a bad night and now all you were paying attention to is stutter or pauses, I'm trying to explain to you what those pauses are. And I'm trying to explain to you today and every single time what is on the line, right? So if you are interested in a certain lifestyle, on the line is that particular lifestyle. And if you're a woman, you have to make wise choices because you're making the choice for you and for your daughters and your granddaughters and everybody around and the nation itself. Because guess what? Overturning restrictions will be very difficult, if not impossible. Just look at those who are fighting for their rights and still are. Look how easy that is. Easy. And how long it takes. You're voting for a candidate, yes, but you're voting for an administration. And by the way, you're not voting today at all. So I hope you listen. I hope you learn. And then you use the time to, think and then make a decision that you want to make. I'm not here propaganding for either or. I wish I could cover something where it would say, oh my God, Trump is actually great. So people's anxiety will lessen. I wish I could do it. And I will if I get a chance to do it. Biden is the logical choice, says majority of CNN, all women voters panel from, hopefully. All I can say is hopefully, especially for CNN after firing people and whatnot. I hope they can retain their employees. So let's talk about a few things. I want to announce it. I wrote articles about it. If you want to go, Onest Network, ONEST network.com. Thank you for, by the way, signing up there for emails. The emails will start on Saturday. So if you're signing up, not getting anything, don't worry. I have you covered. So the emails will just contain all the news I'm reporting on. And so you have it all in one place and don't have to go through my X account and kind of like Google, or if you want to share something, you have access to it. So that today also, Biden administration unveiled $2 billion dollars investment to revitalize American auto manufacturing. So they're rebuilding 11 factories in 8 states. And what was really cool that the former governor of Michigan, where she was, and I shared it in the article, where she was saying how important this decision and this policy is for her personally, because she experienced the downfall, and so now it will be rebuilding. It will be in 8 states, 11 factories will be rebuilt, and I also mentioned the exact companies that will benefit from this decision. This is a huge thing also in terms of job creation and economy in itself, and also just environmental consequences, positive consequences that this decision will lead to. Then also, Bureau of Labor Statistics just released a June CPI report, and the results are significant. So I wanted to show you what the administration has shared in terms of numbers. So what does this mean really? So Americans are paying less, and this is what Biden shared today in the presser briefly. So it's 3.8% less at the pump, 5% less on airfare. Also, there's no junk fees. 2% less on hotels, 1.5% less on used cars, and 0.2% on new ones, 0.9% less on furniture, 0.2% less on chicken, 1.3% less on cereal, and 0.4% less on rice. So I understand this is not that much, but if you go and you see the prices drop a little bit, like we here in New York, we experienced this incredible price for eggs at some point. It was an egg situation. It's like over $12. We're like, oh my God, is that golden? So, but that aside, those are important news that you need to read and be informed about, because we're not voting today. I understand it's election season and year, but you're living today and you are having your budget and planning on it today. Perhaps you're planning on something this summer. So, just be mindful what type of news you consume. So then also Biden met with Zelensky today. Here's a photo. They met at the NATO conference premises. And so then the following POTUS and Biden's meeting with President Zelensky, DOD, Department of Defense, announced additional security assistance to meet Ukraine's critical security and defense needs. There is $225 million in extra aid. The presidential, so the PDA, it's called package, which has an estimated value of $225 million, will provide Ukraine additional capabilities to meet its most urgent needs, including air defense systems and interceptors, munition for rocket systems and artillery, and anti-tank weapons. As President Biden announced earlier this week, the United States is taking joint action with Germany, Romania, the Netherlands, and Italy to strengthen Ukraine's air defenses and provide 5 strategic air defense systems. And then Secretary General of NATO had a conference or held the conference with Zelensky, and he announced the steps that the NATO alliance has decided on. So let's listen to the video. I think it's a bit longer. It's 2 minutes, 23 seconds, but I want you to listen to it in full length so you are better informed. And I think he can inform us better than anybody. Here we go.
Here in Washington, allies have taken decisions to ensure support for the long haul. Yesterday, we agreed a substantial package for Ukraine. First, NATO security assistance and training for Ukraine. NATO will take over the coordination and provision of most international security assistance, with a command led by a 3-star general and around 700 personnel working at the NATO headquarters in Germany, in Wiesbaden, and at hubs in the eastern part of our alliance. This will enhance Ukraine's self-defense. Second, a financial pledge. NATO allies have pledged a minimum baseline of 40 billion euros in military aid for Ukraine within the next year, and to sustain our support for Ukraine to prevail. Third, more immediate military support to Ukraine. Over the past days, allies have pledged crucial additional military aid, including for air defense and other critical capabilities. These donations will help save lives and help beat back Russian invaders. Fourth, more bilateral security agreements with Ukraine. More than 20 allies and partners have now signed bilateral security agreements with Ukraine, giving Ukraine enduring security commitments. Fifth, deepened military interoperability. We will work more closely with the Ukrainian armed forces, including through a new NATO-Ukraine joint analysis, training and education center in Poland, and by deepening our cooperation on innovation and defense industrial production. President Zelensky, in our meeting just now, you and I agreed that all of these elements, a NATO command, more funding, more military support, more security agreements, and more interoperability, constitute a bridge to NATO membership and a very strong package for Ukraine.
And by the way, I covered how Blinken was describing why we're calling it a bridge, because many countries would not agree to say this is a path to NATO, because Ukraine officially is at war, right? Or it's invaded. And so officially the country cannot join NATO until that is lifted, right? So until this is ending. And I think it's in our best interest as well, because because you have to be mindful. If you let Ukraine in, Russia misunderstands and whatnot. Although I would not be fearing Russia. A lot of us bluff, but I do understand where this notion is coming from. So then let's talk about icebreakers, ships, not funny sentences. But there was a meeting yesterday that today we could report on. So there is a particular need for building icebreakers to defend and be more the better presented in the Arctic and Antarctic. So what happened with China, that it declared itself in 2018 as a near Arctic state. And so in collaboration with Russia together, they're using their ships and their icebreakers in the area, which is a threat. So for that reason, the Biden-Harris administration, not for that reason, but in general, in partnership with Canada and Finland, and now think about geography of it all, has introduced the icebreaker collaboration effort, which is called IcePact. This trilateral initiative aims to enhance the production of polar icebreakers and other capabilities crucial for Arctic operations. The agreement emphasizes cooperation in shipbuilding to strengthen industrial capacity and security ties among the participating nations and their allies. So this is very important because when we are, this is not, by the way, meant for any wars. They have stated this is not military. This is for patrolling. So pretty much it has nothing to do with NATO war. So we're going at war with China or Russia, whatnot. No, but the industry has to be rebuilt and has to be boosted. So in case it is needed, we are ready. So then also collaboration with Indo-Pacific partners, they call them IP4, has been announced. So it's a collaboration with Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and South Korea. If you paid a bit of attention, our Secretary of Defense, Austin, and also Secretary Blinken have been traveling to Indo-Pacific and having the agreements and signing the security agreements with these nations to share cybersecurity protection and also share information and collaborate together when we think about defense and we think about potential threats in that region. So it was really important that those IP4, those 4 countries were represented in NATO and had direct dialogue with everybody who is part of NATO. So Jens Stoltenberg has done a great job as General Secretary of NATO. We will miss him. Membership is now a way of ending the war. Yes, and this is exactly to your point. This is the next logical step. It's just when media or when people overreact as to, oh my God, it's a failure, they didn't get the invite, just read the law, right? And especially if we here on the Western side are overreacting, we have to also first and foremost protect your safety and our safety, which is important, right? Because every country has to think about that first and foremost, and this is healthy to do so, okay? So then, U.S. and South Korean nuclear guidelines were signed today at Pentagon meeting. So Acting Assistant Secretary of Defense for Space Policy, from our side, and also the ROK, so South Korean Deputy Minister of National Defense Policy, and co-chairs convened in Pentagon today. And so their meeting resulted in the signing of the United States and Republic of Korea guidelines for nuclear deterrence and nuclear operations on the Korean Peninsula. These guidelines outline principles and procedures aimed at supporting alliance policy and military authorities in maintaining effective nuclear deterrence policy and posture, which is key. If you think about North Korea working together with Russia and all of that as a whole, as a threat, this is important that this collaboration, this cooperation exists, especially when it comes to nuclear threats as well. I have to go make dinner, but we'll listen to the rest tomorrow. Great life as always. Thank you so much. Have a fabulous dinner. Don't leave me, everybody, please. I know I'm boring, but this is information. Okay. So then Biden and Zelensky also announced the Ukraine compact. I will cover it in detail tomorrow and tell you all the details because it just happened before the presser. So I want to share the details there. Now, we also had a meeting today with NSC, National Security, with Jake Sullivan. And the meeting was about totally different topics, but I wanted to share some quotes from Sullivan, who works with Biden truly all the time, all day, every day. So when asked whether there's any concern on how President Biden is seen on the global stage, Jake Sullivan just told us, I shared it in the meeting, that he said, what I have heard as they went around the table yesterday at the North Atlantic Council session with the NATO allies was a drumbeat of praise for the United States, but also for President Biden personally, for what he's done to strengthen NATO, especially as president, but also over the course of his entire career. Leaders really made a point of reinforcing their gratitude to him on that. And then he was asked about the debate performance, and he said, no, I don't have concerns. He said he had a bad night, which is kind of like a weird question to ask. Well, I guess you want to know and you want to cover it, but it's been covered so much. So I want to now share some videos of international leaders talking about Biden's debate performance and their judgment on his ability to serve as president. Weird question to ask a foreign leader, but here's Macron. I shared the transcript. Here's a video.
President Macron, what's your impression of President Biden?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm from Polish Radio.
How are you?
What's your impression of President Biden?
Do you want me to give impression of people?
I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. It's a little bit surprising. He's my counterpart. He's the President of the United States, and we are happy to have him as the President of the United States.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So this was foreign Pooler today for Foreign Press, Marek Wolkolski. I understand why he asked the question, because everybody asked the question, but Macron was sort of like, first of all, I think he thought impression, like a comedy impression, but also then he kind of understood it. And I understand that also European leaders are not used to being screamed at or asked questions like by the media. So I think his answer was good. If you could hear, I know it's a bit on the lower end, but he said that he's the leader of the United States. We're looking forward to dealing with him as a leader. I don't know how to answer the question. So then Scholz, the Chancellor of German leader, was asked pretty much the same question and then two follow-ups. I want you to listen to the full video. It's 2 minutes, 21 seconds, but please listen to it. It's from PBS.
President Biden is likely to win a second term. You've said this week that you don't have any concerns about his health, as other folks have raised questions. We have, since that debate performance, though, we've seen the biggest shift in polls here in the U.S. away from him and towards former President Trump that we've seen to date. Do you still believe that he is likely to win?
I'm not someone that is able to to say how will be the outcome of American elections, but I think it would be a big mistake to underestimate the president. He is successful in doing the necessary things, for instance, in organizing the NATO alliance, and his leadership was very important in the last years and months, and also preparing this very meeting here in Washington. And he is also a successful campaigner. So I think it is the American people that will take a decision. And I just can tell you from my perspective as someone that is speaking with Biden, he is very focused and he is very intensely doing what a president of the United States has to do for leading the alliance.
Can I ask, because you've been in a sort of unique position this week, you've been meeting with him, you're watching him work. Have you seen any moments at all in your latest interactions with him that tell you in any way he is not up to another 4 years?
No.
And can I also ask, did you watch the debate that has created so many headlines here?
Yes, I did.
You did?
To be honest, everyone in Europe is very much interested in the politics within the United States, because the United States are the strongest superpower in the world, and it's our most important ally, so we are trying to understand what goes on.
And as you watched it, nothing that you saw gave you any concern or reason for pause?
I think that he made his points, and he argued why it is necessary to work on a good cooperation globally without friends and allies of democratic states, and he was very clear and focused on questions of national politics.
Boom. And I want you to also listen. He said he's a global leader, and this is United States is seen as a global leader. To my point and my rant that I began with, this is what Europeans see. This is what Europeans expect from United States, and it is delivered. It's already delivered. So I hope that made more sense. Now, this is how loyalty looks like. Newsom stands by Biden, repeats that he wouldn't run against Harris. He's been asked so many times. First of all, he was campaigning a lot since the debate and before that. But all the time he's being asked if he will run against Harris, if he will run even against Biden. So he repeatedly says no. And this is what, honestly, loyalty looks like. And I'm glad to see that in the party. Now, let's talk about our VP, Vice President Harris. She has traveled to North Carolina, Greensboro, and there were comments that she looked very presidential. But I think, you know, if you're vice president, should you not be presidential? And it was sort of like portrayed as to, oh my God, she's being compared to Biden or whatnot. First of all, she was not at NATO conference. She traveled to NC. Yesterday, she traveled as well, and I covered it. So let's take a look. There's three videos. First one is where she talked about Biden running for president. Yeah, take a look.
There can be no doubt who you can count on to fight for you when it counts. It's simple. President Biden and I fight for the American people. Donald Trump does not. He fights for himself. Roy talked about it. Look at the issue of affordable health care. When Donald Trump was in the White House, he tried more than 60 times to end the Affordable Care Act, to take health care back from millions of Americans, including 3 million Black Americans, to once again give insurance companies the power to deny coverage to people with pre-existing conditions. You remember that? Remember what that was like? When people were being denied health care because of a pre-existing condition? Children with asthma? Women who had survived breast cancer? Grandparents with diabetes? Let's not forget what not too long ago that kind of perspective means and meant to real people, our relatives, our friends.
And then she talked about Medicare specifically. Just 40 seconds, take a look.
It was with the knowledge that black people are 60% more likely to have diabetes, Latinos 70% more likely to have diabetes, that we capped the cost of insulin for our seniors at $35 a month. Because we listened and heard and are clear about who we represent. We are finally making it so that medical debt can no longer be used against your credit score. There's the issue of student loan debt. When Donald Trump was in the White House, he tried to end student loan forgiveness for public servants. Who are
Well, I meant Medicare. I don't have Alzheimer's. I meant debt, medical debt. So then she talked about NATO.
for strengthening NATO, making it stronger, making it more united and more effective. That is Joe Biden. That is Joe Biden. And having made it more effective, then together with our allies around the globe, we are standing up to the dictator Putin. All to ensure America is strong and Americans are safe.
So some quotes to share. She said that as Trump bows down to dictators, he makes America weak, and that is disqualifying. She also talked about the decision of the Supreme Court on immunity and Project 2025 and abortion rights. And she said our last line of defense is the ballot box. So also today, I'm not sure if you saw it, we're going to watch some ads, campaign ads today. So Biden-Harris campaign released an ad calling Trump Putin's lapdog. I'm not sure if you saw it, but here it is. It's 58 seconds.
Our safety is built on agreements like NATO, which has protected us for 75 years. And our security is based on an understanding that we never give comfort to dictators. So why does Donald Trump keep siding with Putin? He said he'd walk away from NATO and gave Putin a green light to attack whoever he wants.
I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want.
He sold out Ukraine to empower Putin. He attacks American intelligence and law enforcement and sides with Putin instead, because this is who Donald Trump is. A lapdog for a dictator who blames America first. The United States must never be like Putin's Russia. We don't empower dictators. We don't undermine freedom.
My message to President Putin is simple. We will not walk away. We will not bow down. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
So, an impactful ad. Then it was the talk that Jeffries was sort of calling for Biden to step down. So to debunk the rumors, I wanted to show you a very quick video where he, 17 seconds, where he literally said no.
Leader Jeffries, I do want to ask, so you have another frontliner coming out today, Congresswoman Hillary Scalton, calling for Biden to step aside. You have Greg Landsman saying that he's getting closer to that conclusion. Are you worried that Biden is a liability for your most vulnerable members?
No.
When the question is longer than the answer, you know you got it. So then yesterday, Trump again said that he knows nothing about Project 2025. He has not seen it. I have no idea who is in charge of it. And unlike our very well-received Republican platform, had nothing to do with it. The radical left Democrats are having a field day. However, trying to hook me into whatever policies are stated or said. It is pure disinformation on their part. By now, after all of these years, everyone knows where I stand on everything. And even though he signed it, I doubt he wrote it, because that would have been in caps. And that's not the question. It would be Democrats and all that kind of stuff. But there was a video that leaked where Trump spoke at the Heritage Foundation that is in charge of Project 2025. He spoke and gave a keynote in 2022. So take a look.
Our country is going to hell. The critical job of institutions such as Heritage is to lay the groundwork, and Heritage does such an incredible job at that. This is a great group, and they're going to lay the groundwork and detail plans for exactly what our movement will do and what your movement will do when the American people give us a colossal mandate to save America. And that's coming. That's coming.
So there was a group, gay furry hackers. They hacked the Project 2025 website. And so they revealed and exposed people behind the Project 2025. And it really showed people from Trump's administration as much as his advisors. I know it's tiny font, but I will share it so you can take a look at it. It shared over hundreds of people who contributed and really worked with Trump directly. But now what the good news is that since we started talking about Project 2025, the searches for Project 2025 surpassed Taylor Swift and the NFL. So this is Google search data. Very impactful. I don't think anybody beats Tay-Tay, but in the weird way, Project 2025 dared. That's sort of the fact here. So now, I know I'm overstaying my welcome, so just a few minutes left. I call this segment Weird People. So let's talk about weird people and evil people to begin with. So remember there was the attack on Kids Hospital in Ukraine, in Kiev, right? The hospital, the biggest hospital in Ukraine that treated kids with cancer. And so one pilot, Russian pilot, sent a picture of those responsible for bombing Kids Hospital to Ukrainian authorities. That's all of them. So take a look at those people with the bellies, young, old, not so young, not so old, everybody posing with a plane. And these people just decided to kill kids. This is not from Kiev. This is from Kharkiv, where I'm from. This is the people that do such stuff. And when the only teddy bear with bloodstains remains, you know you're at war. So another thing is, if press poll is something. So it's very common in the US to scream at your elected officials to get a question in. And sometimes it turns into this funny moment. If you ever experience such thing in person, you will really feel as close as possible to a zoo. Because if you're on the receiving end and people are screaming at you, the only thing that can protect your mental health is just your sense of humor. And so that's what President Biden showed a little bit. So here's the situation. He was meeting for the first time with the newly elected British PM. It was yesterday in the Oval Office. And he was screamed at all about George Clooney and that he doesn't support him anymore. So take a look.
For coming down.
And I want you to watch it for the full minute, just to get the idea behind it. I think I'm European, or I don't know, my family is very academic. So for me to scream at somebody who's 81, it's just like, whoa, foreign thought. But I understand you want to get your question in. Maybe that's not the best method. Maybe it has to be somehow regulated. I'm not sure, but it needs change. Another weird news. So here's Chris Cuomo, who I really loved watching during the LoveGov era, where his brother was our governor in New York and, all that. But so he said, read here, here's the simple truth. Biden getting pushed out is much more exciting than Biden staying in. It's about the outcome and the purpose that we should worry about. So, Chris, do you think that your brother being pushed out from the governor's position after being loved in the LoveGov era during COVID was exciting? How would you react if somebody said it to you? Was it exciting? And also, you're an analyst, you're a politician, you do this, for years. So you well know that there are those 3 states, swing states, that would not get any new candidate on the ballot. So what's your agenda? Who are you working for? That's my question. So then RFK Jr. Last video released an ad, campaign ad. The only problem with this ad is that it's completely done with AI, and it manipulated CNN moderators during the debate. Watch it.
Panic has set in across the country as Democrats are shocked by a startling revelation following Thursday night's debate. Joe Biden is not fit for candidacy.
DNC donors and lobbyists have called for him to step aside. The party is furiously planning as to who they will anoint before the August 7th deadline.
Meanwhile, reports coming from Camp David say that Jill and Hunter Biden are adamantly convincing the president to remain in the race.
All right, look, regardless of how this plays out, it's hard to not describe this as a complete disaster for Democrats all across the country who, despite now knowing the true state of their candidate, will go to any lengths in order to keep Donald Trump out of office.
Sources are saying Democrats are starting to rally around who they believe might be their only legitimate chance of beating Donald Trump.
He's a lifelong Democrat. He has a proven track record of decades-long service to this country.
We finally found a candidate who can unite the country.
He knows how to work across the aisle. He knows how to weed out corruption.
He says he knows how to deal with Ukraine on day 1 of his presidency.
He's strong on inflation. He's strong on affordable housing.
He says he will close the border as soon as he takes office.
All the polls are saying he can take down Trump this November.
Ladies and gentlemen, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
My question is, can these people be sued for this? And I'm not, feeling any type of way, but this is really a very dangerous zone when we are in election and you are really using clearly voices of moderators. You saw very familiar and famous faces, and then you change the narrative that Democrats are now giving up on Biden, rallying up around RFK Jr. What is it? It has to be addressed. This is not healthy. This is not kosher. Now, weird people. So the editorial board of New York Times says Donald Trump is unfit to lead. Little too late. But also my question is, if you think Biden is unfit to lead and then Trump, let's just throw everything and just let's start anew, which I agree with. He is not fit to lead. So ask Republicans to replace. And why I'm making this judgment, again, I wish I wouldn't have to say it. I wish. But when we watch the rallies and everything that's being said in this geopolitical environment, in this sensitive environment we live in, where the war is in Europe, the NATO is uniting to protect us from World War III and full-blown body karate, we can't afford being funky and funny and sarcastic if we call it that way, or nuts if we call it that way. That's why I'm saying that. If it was a regular election, a regular Republican candidate, I would love to cover both sides equally and let you decide, which I still do. You decide. I'm not putting decision into you. This democracy we all love, U.S., and for the choices that we do have and can make. Last thing about weird people. So there's the Trump supporters for RNC. So there will be interesting speakers. Wife beater Dana White will introduce Trump, and then also yesterday you told me this girl's name, the porn star. You reminded me, Amber Rose. Yes, Amber Rose will be speaking there, and so those are the fans that are gathering. We're getting ready for RNC. Take a look.
Trump 2024. Y'all already know who we voting for. Vote for my uncle. Period. Trump 2024. Trump, say the USA. MAGA.
Well, that's a committed fan base. But people were, well, last video, really, it's 1 minute. I found a wonderful gentleman who described the issue, and people came back at me that I don't cover Epstein files or anything of that nature about Trump. Why I have not spoken about it yet? I'm somebody who has experienced such situations, so I take it very seriously. And what I don't want this discussion to result in is that somebody who is a MAGA supporter would say, let's not trust the girls, because the girls who filed the lawsuit, they took it back. This is he said, she said, he is right, she's lying, she's extorting him for money. No woman will go that way to start, making stuff up, especially when you have evidence and you have pictures, and over 70 pictures with Epstein. How many pictures do you have with your own mom? Can you count all 70? So I want to be prepared, and I would love to speak either with those who have filed the lawsuit, had something to do with it, have interviewed the girls, or the girls who are women now themselves, to have thorough conversation, so we hear from somebody who knows what it's about, and we're not just covering media reports. So I will work on that. We have enough time, but don't push me to talk about this sensitive issue just to be faced with debunking and like trolls on X, because they don't deserve it. This issue doesn't deserve it, because victims of such sexual crimes are watching too. And when we laugh and when we troll victims, those who are not part of this case at all, but had their case on their own, will feel some type of way, and it will, affect their mental state. So for that reason, let's treat it with compassion. But this gentleman, very last video, he actually described it really well. He shared it on social media. Take a look.
Well, hello there. July 8th, coming to you from the Oregon coast. My wife and I were just talking about the newly resurfaced testimony from Katie Johnson. All of you MAGA Christians, go Google Trump and Katie Johnson. The original assault occurred in 1994. You've got to read a little bit about it. This is not your guy for the president. He's been remarkably adept at hiding all of this, at covering it up, at paying for it. Your hard-earned dollars are going to a guy who has now got multiple sexual assault accounts against him. Please, there's nothing Christian about him. Thanks. All the best.
That as a media person, as a reporter who covers the White House and national security, I have to be impartial, and I really try to be. Now, why am I not really taking sides, but why am I reporting facts the way they are and not downgrading it into something neutral? First, as a woman, this is very important what we're talking about. There's a lot at stake. Second, Ukrainian-born, American citizen. Two things. Also, I have parents, and I'm pretty, excited if they can get care that they deserve as much as me as well. So it really comes down to your own ethics and values. And we have professions, and we also have ethics, and the professions have ethics themselves too. So yes, I understand that journalists and reporters have to be impartial, but also journalists and reporters have to dig deeper and present facts. And I said many times, either administration F's up, I will tell you that. As much as yesterday Zelensky's video was unfortunate, and I shared it. And everybody was like, oh, what is he saying? But I shared it because it matters. It matters to be informed. So for that reason, very long, 110, not so long. But thank you so much. It's very late. I appreciate you. See you tomorrow on the live stream where we dissect the debate. Keep calling it debate. We dissect the press conference and then cover the news that will happen up until today. Thank you for watching. Bye. Share it. Share it, share it, share it.